Sometimes we come across people who have a special quality, an ability to listen deeply. There's a sense of peace in their lives and a deep compassion that shows itself so quietly. Their sense of faith and trust in God, it's palpable. And they're people that we find ourselves turning to easily, almost instinctively, when we need help. What's interesting is often we discover later that these remarkable people are ones who have suffered great loss and have been able to find meaning for their lives in that suffering precisely because they've united it to their love for Jesus Christ. This is what Our Lady of Sorrows is all about. The Church offers us this centuries-old tradition of turning to Mary with our misery and grief and seeing her as someone like us who has suffered greatly. As a mother, we know Mary witnessed her innocent son, the one whom she loves with her whole being, cruelly tormented and put to death. As the mother of this executed criminal, and as a mother struggling to believe in her son's message, she had to deal with the anger of those who murdered him and the fear of his friends who deserted him. I discovered an ancient hymn from Syria that captures the sorrow that Mary felt for the sufferings of her tormented and crucified son. I am overwhelmed, my son. I am overwhelmed by love, and I cannot endure that I should be in the chamber and you on the wood of the cross. I in the house, and you in the tomb. We all have pain and suffering in our lives. Even the most privileged of us have to deal with this very human experience. We face the death of a beloved family member, and it's especially devastating when it is a child who dies. Part of life is our own aging and diminishment and a growing awareness of our physical and mental frailty, or the worries we have about our children, our grandchildren, and other family members. The profound disappointments of life, the state of our marriages, the reality of the youthful dreams we once had, or perhaps disappointment in the decisions made by our children. All these are part of the experience of so many of us. Sometimes there is the anxiety of waiting for the results of medical tests, waiting for a problem that we've carried for so long to be resolved, waiting to see how the unknown changes that will come about in us and our family if the results of that test are bad. Beyond the scope of our own personal world, there is poverty, insecurity, lost jobs, underemployment, raising grandchildren, single-parent families, ugly divorces. There are anger, slaps and screams within families and relationships. The shadow of the cross is in the death penalty, abortion, the displacements of whole peoples, and the slaughter of communities. So how do we live with this? How do we share this experience that we all seem to have of grief and suffering and make sense of it? In the Gospel, when Simeon met Mary and Joseph in the temple and saw the infant Jesus, he knew that Jesus was destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel. But Simeon also was predicting that Jesus' life would cause Mary tremendous sorrow. Pope John Paul II commented in his encyclical Redemptorist Mater that this was Mary's second Annunciation. The first Annunciation was the angel Gabriel announcing that she was to be the Mother of God, and she said, "Let it be done to me as you say." This second Annunciation was Simeon telling her that a sword of sorrow would pierce her heart. She had to live her fiat in suffering at the side of her son's sufferings. Her motherhood would be laced with suffering. Mary is a woman who has suffered deeply in life. And this is a very real and very human Mary who understands our losses and our tragedies. If we want the consolation of our mother, and if we want to console her in our sorrow, then we must be willing to comfort all her children. With Mary's grace, we must move toward forgiving and bearing our resentments at family and all others. Jesus has given us his mother, but we are given more. We're given a community of believers, of people who share and are bound by our grief, our pain, our anger, and our forgiveness, as we try to give birth to the Word of God in our midst. Where the mother of sorrows is, Jesus is. It is where the friends of God are found. Are we there? One of the phrases read on Good Friday comes from the book of Lamentations. It could be something any one of us could utter at any moment. Come, all you who pass by, and see whether there is any suffering like my suffering. In our pain, we look to Jesus and find Mary and one another near the cross. Together, we are given hope and courage. In our shared pain, we are given strength. In our shared grief, we are given hope. In our shared anger and sorrow, we are given forgiveness and mercy. No one needs to suffer alone, especially you. It's good that our God has gone through all of this suffering with us, and that he stays with us and gives us his mother and the community. We can go home together and believe something new will come. We can go home and wait for the dawn of grace to come. We can go home together and feel gratitude. Mary, our mother of perpetual help, the sorrowful mother, is remembered most for her compassion for us, for all of us. It's most especially found in her eyes. This is what saves us. Her compassion, this song of suffering, which she learned throughout her lifetime, but especially near the cross of her Son. And she sings this song for all her beloved children.